Jaya, Gauranitai Jaya, Gauranitai Jaya, Gauranitai
Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai.
Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Okay, thank you everyone for coming this evening. We welcome back His Holiness Ritavaja Maharaj. So if you haven't gotten the memo just yet, he has requested everyone to turn on their camera. Most everyone has. Those of you, those 4 of you that have not, I would suggest that you listen. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Maharaj. Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Abhi. Sheikh. What's your middle name?
Prakash.
The same as your dad.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. A.P. Singh. So my understanding is that we're on Srimad Bhagavatam 8, chapter Canto 1, chapter 8, prayers by Queen Kunti, text number 36. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminitya Namane Namaste Sarasati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvasesa Sunyavadi Pastatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vivanti grananti abhyasana smaranti nandanti tarehitam jana tareva pashyantya chirena tarakam baba prabhav oh paramam padam bhujam. Very nice verse, actually. Oh Krishna, those who continuously hear, chant, and repeat your transcendental activities, or take pleasure in others doing so, certainly see your lotus feet, which alone can stop the repetition of birth and death. Anybody have any reflections on this verse? Something that this is such a nice verse. There has to be something coming from it. Just imagine not having to take birth and death again. Okay, Tandavika, you're smiling. That means you got something.
Not really, Maharaj.
You're always smiling.
But yeah, but also I feel that your inspiration, Maharaj. Even though I don't have anything, your inspiration. You are pushing me to give something.
Please. Anybody here want to get out of the material whirlpool of birth and death? Anybody interested in that? Getting out of that whirlpool? Anybody want to stop the old age system? We got some. I'm a seasoned citizen.
Welcome to the club, Maharaj.
We got some seasoned citizens here, and this isn't what I bargained for. I can tell you that. I didn't bargain for this one. Plus, I got the COVID shot. Now I got a fever, and my body is completely wiped out. It took 2 days, but it got me. And so, if we want to get free from this cycle, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi, what is this verse telling us? What do we have to do? You have your books? I don't know if everybody has books. Can you put the verse on the board? Abhishek,
Manjari, can you do that?
Yeah, but we don't know what verse it is.
1836, chapter 19.
Dad, text it to me so I can look it up. So I'll screenshot it.
Go on the weather base and look.
She'll do it. She'll do it. Don't worry. She'll do it.
I don't know how to screenshot and all that.
She'll do it. She'll do it. She's got a brain. So the verse is, "O Krishna." This is Kunti praying, "O Krishna." In her estimation, those who continuously hear, chant, and repeat your transcendental activities, or take pleasure in others doing so, certainly see your lotus feet, which alone can stop the repetition of birth and death. We don't even have to do it ourselves. We just have to appreciate somebody else doing it. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good bargain, if you ask me. So maybe I should ask somebody here to hear and chant about Krishna, and I can just appreciate it, and I'll get some good benefit. How does that sound? Vishnu Charan, you look very serious today. You look like you're in deep contemplation over there.
Maharaj, I asked this question to Giriraj Swami last time about, like the desire that we have to get out of this material world. Is that a good desire or not? Because it's like a bargain. I'll do bhajan and kirtan if I can get something out of it, which is I don't have to come back to this material world. And he said, yeah, it's a good desire, but we have to. There are 3 kinds of desires, in mode of goodness, and mode of passion, and mode of ignorance, yeah. And then there's a transcendental desire. So his point was this desire of getting out of this material world is good, but it's not transcendental. So it's in mode of goodness. Yeah, you want to get out of here. It's a miserable place. To understand that, this is a shashvatam, dukhalayam. You understand that concept. But better is to, just do not have the desire and just, just do your service to Krishna and let Krishna decide where he wants you to be in the next life. And this point she's making here is that, if we take pleasure in chanting and doing this transcendental, the hearing, continuous hearing and stuff, that in itself, is the should be a goal of our life. Whether we're come back or not, if we can just do this, take pleasure in talking about Krishna, then that's success. So we shouldn't worry about getting birth or not next life.
That's a very nice point, because that's like a next level. It's like unmotivated, uninterrupted. The Bhagavatam says, unmotivated, uninterrupted. These verses are there. Actually, we just want to please Krishna. We get the benefit of being with Krishna. We'll be able to, this verse says we'll be able to see Krishna's lotus feet. And we're actually on the first canto of the Bhagavatam. And so we're seeing Krishna's lotus feet. The first canto is Krishna's lotus feet. So we're actually at the right place at the right time. But we have this understanding that because this verse, I brought out the point because just to get the conversation going, who wants to get out of the repetition, birth, death, old age, and disease? But the verse actually states that if we can actually engage in continuously hearing and chanting and repeating Krishna's activities, or at least take pleasure in others doing so. In other words, take pleasure in hearing about Krishna's name and activities, then we're literally right at Krishna's lotus feet. We don't need to worry about, and if we're right next to Krishna's lotus feet, it doesn't matter where else we are. I remember one time there was a funeral in Alachua, it was in Gainesville, one devotee in Alachua County passed away. It was Sridhananda Maharaj's disciple. And I brought this up to this group before, I think. And a lot of times when devotees pass away, people ask, where do you think they went? Where do you think he went? Where do you think she went? Where, then to get it got back to Godhead. And Maharaj was there and he said, we don't worry about the geography. And we don't worry about, in other words, when we're in this material world, we're devotees of Krishna, we're serving Krishna, we're honoring Krishna Prasad, we're associating with devotees. And so automatically, wherever we go in our next lifetime, Neha Bikamanasasi Petravaya Navijate, Svapamapyasha, that that we will, in this endeavor, there's no loss or diminution, and anything that we gain on the spiritual platform will be given to us in our next life. And so we're guaranteed to be in the association of devotees in our next lifetime, because we're in the association this lifetime. We'll be taking prasadam next lifetime because we're taking prasadam this lifetime. So where that is, like Vishnu Charan was saying, the geographical, is it Krishna Loka? Is even Prahlad, I think it's Prahlad says he's willing to go to hell. Of course, there's one famous verse where Prahlad says that many of the great sages or munis or yogi, they want to go to the forest for gaining enlightenment or salvation, maybe is a word I think he uses. Prahlad Maharaj says, as far as I'm concerned, I'd rather stay in the cities and help everybody become, get an understanding of their true spiritual nature and be able to help them get out of the material world than to just try to, I don't know if the word is hog it for themselves, but to just to try to satisfy my own spiritual quest. Because if we actually take interest in helping people get out of the material, I like Ravinder Swaroop's word quagmire, the quagmire of material existence. We help people out of that situation by giving them an opportunity to engage in devotional service in whatever shape or form we can engage them. Even here, it's even appreciating. Just like before, I was watching this video. I can't remember the name of it. What was the name of that? I was just watching it. It's like it's like the Hare Krishna's. It's a Hare Krishna video about. Oh God, I can't remember the name. I don't know how to put it on my phone. It was on somebody sent the link, newsletter link, and the devotees are actually very, very happy going out and spreading Krishna consciousness. They're like totally blissful on the street, chanting and hearing, and it gives great joy to the heart, sharing Krishna consciousness. So, can we get a volunteer who knows how to read? Abhishek, I think your wife knows how to read. She's sitting over there. Get her to read. Sarvani, did I say that right? Sarvani, I hope I got the right one now here.
Yes, Maharaj, you got it.
You see her, how happy her parents became when I mentioned her name and to have her read the first paragraph. The parents became overjoyed. Even the mother-in-law and father-in-law became happy, which was very, anyway, I won't say anything.
I think this is the wrong one.
Everyone, please pay attention. Like I was saying, in the previous classes, when we hear these words, these are actually Srila Prabhupada's. He's right here with, just like the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is personally present with us, speaking through the Bhagavad Gita. In the same way, the sages, Queen Kunti here is with us speaking to Krishna, and Prabhupada is with us speaking to us. I mean, we're all together in this. We shouldn't just take this lightly. We should concentrate and see, because the other day we found some very amazing words in Prabhupada's commentaries. So please read, Savan.
The Supreme Krishna cannot be seen by our present conditional vision. In order to see him, one has to change his present vision by developing a different condition of life full of spontaneous love of Godhead. When Sri Krishna was personally present on the face of the globe, not everyone could see him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Materialists like Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, Kamsa, Jarasandha, and Shishupal were highly qualified personalities by acquisition of material assets, but they were unable to appreciate the presence of the Lord. Therefore, even though the Lord may be present before our eyes, it is not possible to see him unless we have the necessary vision. This necessary qualification is developed by the process of devotional service only, beginning with hearing about the Lord from the right sources. The Bhagavad Gita is one of the popular literatures which are generally heard, chanted, repeated, etc. by the people in general. But in spite of such hearing, etc., sometimes it is experienced that the performer of such devotional service does not see the Lord eye to eye. The reason is that the first item, Shravana, is very important. If hearing is from the right sources, it acts very quickly. Generally, people hear from unauthorized persons. Such unauthorized persons may be very learned by academic qualifications, but because they do not follow the principles of devotional service, hearing from them becomes a sheer waste of time. Sometimes the texts are interpreted fashionably to suit their own purposes. Therefore, first one should select a competent and bona fide speaker and then hear from him. When the hearing process is perfect and complete, the other processes become automatically perfect in their own way.
Okay. Can we get some reflections on this one? This was pretty good, huh?
Well, the important thing, Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, waiting.
Yeah, the important thing is emphasize here, Srila Prabhupada would Shravanam, and then Shravanam from who? So that's why I'm a takeaway point for me, Maharaj, that we have to hear from the right source who is really Acharya, who is following what he teaches, not don't worry about what I do, but you would listen to what I tell you. So another point was that big materialists, they had everything, but could not understand God, Krishna. And big names, Ravan, Hiranyakashipu, Kamsa, Jarasandha, Shishupal. They were eye to eye, but they could not understand that.
Yeah. Even Yashoda couldn't understand Krishna was God. But that's a different level.
Yes, ma'am.
Nanda Maharaj couldn't understand Krishna. Even Yashoda looked in the mouth and saw the universal form one day. And she thought, oh, something, whatever. Anyone else have some reflections or anything that they from this verse? There's like 26 people. We expect to hear from someone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I just, I'm thinking of this, like, what to speak of fight face to face. I mean, these people were seeing face to face, like Ravan, Duryodhan, all these people, they are seeing, the Lord directly in front of them, but still they couldn't realize that, the Lord was there. It makes the point that, like Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochane, that, verse brings to the point. I mean, unless we have the love, anointed with, our eyes are anointed with the love of devotional service, really, we can't, even though we see the Lord face to face, we can't recognize him. And I think the Lord reveals himself to the devotee by, his practice of devotional service.
Nice. The practice of devotional service. I remember one time, I just saw something the other day. Some devotees sent me, and there one big professor, and he would, the typical example, he said, if you can't, if it's not observable, then it doesn't exist. But there's so many things that aren't observable, like our mind. We can kind of observe our mind, but we can't touch it. We can do all these kind of things. And so the way we had, there was a class one time, and the devotee was explaining that hearing is also proof. Just in other words, they say, just like they want to see it. So we want to see things, then that's the way they want the proof, is by seeing. So we have so many examples here that are given that people that saw Krishna but still couldn't understand. So the main emphasis, Prabhupada said here, like Nitai Gaurasundar brought up, is that the reason is that the first item, Shravanam. So Shravanam is also proof. Hearing is also proof. Just like if I tell you, watch out, you're gonna, that's hot. So you heard it. It's you immediately accept. You accept me as an authority on hot items, not stolen items, hot items, physically hot items, not items that have been stolen. Abhishek like that one. And so the idea is just simply by hearing, that was proof. And so also by hearing, which Prabhupada explains here, is the first and most, it doesn't say most important, but the reason is that the first item is hearing. And that hearing, as Nitai Gaurasundar was saying, has to be from the right sources. And it acts very quickly, Prabhupada says here. This was written prior to Srila Prabhupada coming to the West. And what was the name? The glory of, what's the name of that video? It's like, I just watched it. Can I make this small somehow? How do I make this small? Anyway, I don't know how to make it small. So, because then I can look at the name of the video. It's an older video, and it's just about devotees on Sankirtan. It's got Ambarish talking about the temple of understanding. They got deity worship. They got actors. They got Hanumat Prakshika's disciple, what's his name? Radhika Raman talking, and they got so many people speaking. And so this hearing probably was, he wrote this before he came to America. And when he came to America, at first there was nothing going on. Practically, he didn't even know what besides walking to the grocery store or something. He was just going from room to room, and then he got that little storefront. And that, what was the name of that professor that just passed away? Came to 26.
Thomas Hopkins.
Yeah, Thomas Hopkins, who was saying that he goes down to the Lower East Side of New York, and there's a little storefront. I mean, the storefront is maybe 15, I don't think it's 20 feet wide. I don't think it's 20, it may be 20 feet wide. And there's one of those, what do you call it? Like marquee boards, where you used to stick the letters in the slots, right? The International Society for Krishna Consciousness, AC Bhagavad Gita classes Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, AC Bhaktivedanta Swami, something like that. And he looked at it and he thought, International Society? What? He said, this seems like, how can they consider this? I mean, literally in the ghetto, how can they consider this like the headquarters for the International Society for Krishna Consciousness? And even, I think it's Malati, when she was in San Francisco, and Prabhupada left San Francisco to go to India to get his health back. I explained this the other day, I can't remember, I said in class. They had 26 Second Avenue, and they had 1518 Frederick Street, which was a few blocks from the intersection of Haight and Ashbury, which was the at that point the hub of the universe for the count. It wasn't the count, that was the hippie movement. And then there was a different movement that was going on at the same time, counterculture, and there was also anti-Vietnam War culture movement going on. And when Prabhupada left, he said, please, take good care and expand this International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And Melodi's thinking, we got 2 storefronts. What is this International Society? It's like the devotees. The devotees couldn't even conceive of what Prabhupada was envisioning. And so but the point I was trying to make is it happens very quickly. When you think about a few, people from the Lower East Side, of course, like Larry Shen and all these professors, they say that, some people say that Prabhupada couldn't have came at a more opportune time in America, by plan or by Krishna's arrangement or something like that, because it was a time of what would you say? It was kind of like an awakening time for the Western, for America especially. And so many people just took to Krishna consciousness so fast, and just young people, inexperienced, not like knowing much about the world except for their when you're 20-some years old, you don't have unless you're like some prodigy or something, you don't have much of an understanding. And they started the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and it probably he mentioned many times, spread like wildfire. We all know what wildfire is like. We see that, in the news in California, wildfire, over in Australia, wildfire. It takes out hundreds of millions of acres. It just goes wild, uncontrollable. And we can see how the Hare Krishna movement actually acted because it was heard from the right source. It acted very quickly. And you have people, it's just amazing how the Hare Krishna movement came about when you really think about it. A lot of nice takeaways. Anybody else with something for us tonight to share? I'm gonna take a look at the picture so I can pick on somebody.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, just reading that paragraph and talking about hearing from the right source, it just reminded me of something. When I was in undergrad at University of Florida, I took a world religion class, and we talked about the Bhagavad Gita in that class, but I remember it was some version I had never seen before. The interpretations that the professors were giving us on the Bhagavad Gita was just so different than everything else I had grown up listening to. So, this particular paragraph just kind of got me thinking back to that time. Again, I was, in theory, listening to the same thing, but just the concept and the real knowledge of the text we were losing due to the way it was being presented and by whom it was being presented by. Even though this was a professor at a renowned institution,
it's not renowned.
A professor of a university.
I forgot you went to the University of Florida.
Anyhow, that was my point.
Yeah. So the thing is, it's so true. Did you raise your hand did you ever raise your hand in class and say, I don't really think it means that. I think it means, and give a commentary during your class, or did you go for the A?
No, I just tried to blend in, Maharaj. I didn't really speak up.
Okay, that's okay.
Teenager.
We can see this is actually true, isn't it? Academic qualification. The Prabhupada is explaining here that that hearing from people that don't follow the rules, aren't engaged in the process of bhakti, they see this. The first part of the paragraph describes that we cannot see with our present conditional vision. In other words, our vision is conditional. It's not that we need glasses or but Prabhupada says here, in order to see him, one has to change his present vision by developing a different condition of life. full of spontaneous love of God. And so when one's life is, surcharged in this way, then one gets an ability to see Krishna in as he is. Just like Srila Prabhupada wrote Bhagavad Gita as it is. And then I was talking to Nitai Gaurasun the other day, and we found one that some person wrote Bhagavad Gita as it was. What was that? And it's just like the point is like when we get the right combination, the Bhagavatam explains when both husband and wife have potency, then the child can be produced. And so when the hearer is right and the speaker is potent, then that combination can produce bhakti. It can produce a living experience with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Anybody else? Sanders? Huh. I can't make everybody come on because the thing is there. Okay, if there's no other comments, we can get anybody that, Abhishek, you're a lawyer, you know how to read. You can see how Tennessee does compared to the University of Florida.
Leaps and bounds better. There are different transcendental activities of the Lord, and each and every one of them is competent to bestow the desired result, provided the hearing process is perfect. In the Bhagavatam, the activities of the Lord begin from his dealings with the Pandavas. There are many other pastimes of the Lord in connection with his dealings with Asuras and others. And in the 10th canto, the sublime dealings with his conjugal associates, the gopis, as well as with his married wives at Dwarka are mentioned. Since the Lord is absolute, there is no difference in the transcendental nature of each and every dealing of the Lord. But sometimes people in unauthorized hearing processes take more interest in hearing about his dealings with the gopis. Such an inclination indicates the lusty feelings of the hearer. So a bona fide speaker of the dealings of the Lord never indulges in such hearings. One must hear about the Lord from the very beginning, as in the Srimad Bhagavatam or any other scriptures, and that will help the hearer attain perfection by progressive development. One should not, therefore, consider that his dealings with the Pandavas are less important than his dealings with the gopis. We must always remember that the Lord is always transcendental to all mundane attachment. In all the above mentioned dealings of the Lord, he is hero in all circumstances, and hearing about him or about his devotees or combatants is conducive to spiritual life. It is said that the Vedas and Puranas, etc., are all made to revive our lost relation with him. Hearing all of these scriptures is essential.
Very nice, huh? Some takeaways? Anybody have it? Some takeaways? You can take that off, and I can see everybody. Manjari, you take down. I think everybody. Oh, they need it for the hearing and chanting. Give us some takeaways, somebody.
In Majid, Prabhupada said that Lord is absolute. Whatever he does, his activities, whatever they're absolute there, and we should not be choosing one or other. And Prabhupada emphasizes more often that not jump to the 10th canto. We have to go from first canto to the 10th canto, from lotus feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Some other takeaways or reflections?
Yeah, one more thing that comes to my mind, it's just to prove the point, like Prabhu was mentioning, like Tagore Sundar Prabhu was mentioning, it just reminds me that just to prove this point, I think Deda Goswami had actually picked like 10 incarnations and to glorify the Lord's pastimes, and even though there are unlimited incarnations, and anshas and other things. And like if you see those 10, you see that fish, tortoise, boar, yeah, and then half man, half lion. You see the Lord comes up in different forms, and just because he's coming in the form doesn't mean he's a fish or he's a boar or he's not.
Yeah.
He is the supreme Lord, no matter how he comes and what pastimes he performs. All his appearances and incarnations are all transcendental.
Yeah. Prabhupada explains that Chuta means infallible. And he gives different examples. Just because Krishna was driving Arjuna's chariot, it's not like he was driver A. It's not like he was like the peon driving, the driver helping, Or just like Prabhupada explains that when Krishna was a baby, he was still full of all potency. He in that form as a baby, he exhibited, like, the cart demon, the Trinavarta demon, the Putana, these people who came, they thought that we'll get this, it's easy. But they found out that, Krishna is a Chuta, he's infallible. He never fails. And that's why when Arjuna asked him to drive the chariot, he said, "Oh, Achyuta, oh infallible one, I know what's going on here. This is, you decided to be my chariot driver, but you are something other than that." And so these words are very, very condensed. Anyone else? Saroji, nice to see you, Saroji.
Raj, I have a question.
Sure, Abhi.
So in this paragraph, Prabhupada writes that each pastime is in itself good enough to convey the I guess to get love of Godhead. I would assume.
Where are you at?
It's in the second paragraph. I'm trying to find it.
Yeah. There are many other pastimes of the Lord in connection with dealings of the Lord. Each and every, I see it here. To get to the beginning of the sentence. And in the 10th canto, the subline dealings with his conjugal associates, the gopis, as well as the married wives of Dwarka, are mentioned. Since the Lord is absolute, there's no difference in the transcendental nature of each and every one of his dealings with the Lord. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Marge. Well, I guess, but the question that I have is, even I think the Lord takes different moods in dealing with different devotees. Is the same mood then attached as loving devotional service? Would that be the outcome of these pastimes? Or are we to see if Krishna is in Dwarka, the mood was awe and reverence? So would it be that mood? Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's the each and every person has a particular relationship with Krishna. And according to that relationship, one sees Krishna or Krishna reciprocates, and one reciprocates with Krishna according to that. I mean, there's 5 basic ones: neutrality, servitorship, friendship, parental, and conjugal. And although each and every one of them is imbued with a sense of loving, a loving relationship, but of course it's described that they're seen in an equal way, in the sense that they're all love of God, but the intimacy may be a little bit more stronger in the other ones, but they're all present within each and every one of them. It's just like in servitorship, there's so many things that are serving Radha and Krishna in the Rasa Leela. There's so many things, there's so many things that there's so much paraphernalia that's necessary in neutrality and servitorship and all these kind of things that need to be there. The cowherd boys were there, and with Madhumangala. Madhumangala was the little Brahmin boy, always trying to get the laddu and stuff like that, and so he was very, very instrumental in distracting the cowherd boys while Krishna stole the garments from the gopis when they were bathing in the Yamuna, because they were all praying to have Krishna as their husband, and Krishna wanted to fulfill that desire. So there's so many things going on. It's almost like it's like in the first canto it describes it's like like actors in a theater. Like actors in the theater, there's so many props. There's so many people that are somebody just stands in the corner with their arms, folded so that type of like energy is on the stage. So there's so many different things going on, but each and every one of them are active in their relationship according to their specific swarup, but all are contained within this loving relationship with Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
That was kind of a brief introduction to that. That's too deep for me today after the COVID vaccination. But it's interesting. You can see it in so many of the Acharya literatures. It's very, very, you read the commentary in the 10th canto, and it's pretty, I mean, all the details that go into say the pastimes of Yashoda Mai, binding, it's not that Yashoda Mai neglected Krishna when the milk was boiling over the pot. She went to do that because she wanted to serve Krishna. She wasn't leaving. She was going to serve Krishna. She wasn't leaving. And so we always think, oh, she left Krishna. No wonder you got so mad. No, she went to Krishna to serve Krishna. And so, I mean, it's very, very relishable. And even as Prabhupada was saying here, from the first canto up to the 10th canto, and even one of my favorite ones is the Uddhava Gita. It's so beautiful. I mean, so beautiful, Uddhava Gita. And I think the 11th canto, 12th canto has so many nice stories. And so these things are they're meant. See, there's one place where Prabhupada explains that Veda Vyas went to a great extent to, what would you say, put down to pen all these different literatures, especially Srimad Bhagavatam, to give people a chance to not be distracted by worldly things. I mean, it's so easy. I mean, it's so easy just to click on Facebook, whatever, YouTube or whatever the thing is, or watch something and see something. And so these Vyasadeva actually worked hard to give us something that we can absorb our thinking in and understanding of the Supreme Lord. And when you read these pastimes of Krishna, when you read the pastime, all these different things that go on throughout the Bhagavatam, the heart becomes cleansed because there's so many different types of doubts. There's so many different types of distractions. There's so many different types of desires that reside within the heart. And as you go through the Bhagavatam, these things are all opened up. They're all opened up. We may not be able to reflect 100%. Oh, I'm learning this because of this. I'm learning this because of that. But as we read, those things are slowly purifying the unwanted things in the heart and neutralizing them and eradicating them, so that when we actually come to the point, we can actually engage in full loving service to the Supreme Lord. How long it will take depends on our sincerity. One time, and I think I've told this group before, in Seattle, one time the devotee said, "This is 60." I don't even know how we had a temple in Seattle. I think it said the tapes. Remember the old cassette said 1968, but someone asked Prabhupada how we can become pure devotee. He said, by your eagerness. I was really eager. I mean, throughout my life, I've been very eager for many things. Hopefully, Krishna too, since my mid-20s, early 20s, excuse me. But I can remember the eagerness we had for certain things, like if we're going to go on vacation, we're so eager and wanting to do it. But if we could just have that same eagerness, and therefore the Rupa Goswami writes that just as a young boy and young girl have like a spontaneous attraction for each other. If we, it just spontaneously happens. If we can have that type of spontaneity towards Krishna, just imagine what we could achieve. it is such a good example to illustrate this point, because everyone has some type of attraction to someone else, and it's spontaneous. You can tell, just like that, just like that. And so, if we can just have that for Krishna, how much more enriching our lives would be. Some more takeaways, more reflections. Somebody must have got something. Should I call? I'll let Nitya Gaurasundar do the calling.
I'm afraid of calling them, otherwise I may lose them. So I don't want to.
They don't want to call.
I want to have this group going, Maharaj.
We don't want to embarrass anyone. No, that's not, ours isn't by force, ours is by choice.
Yeah, so I don't want to. Maybe I can call Madhav Prabhu. He will not mind.
Who?
Madhav Prabhu, you met him from North Carolina?
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam, and
Hare
all the
Krishna.
devotees. So, it's and again, as Maharaj, you are, so he, as Gaur Sundar Prabhu says, he doesn't want to call, he may lose. So, and as this verse also says that there are not everyone like to talk. There are people like to just listen and hearing as Shravanam, Kirtanam. So somebody may not like Kirtan, at least as long as one stuff is there. Out of those three important, I think one can see the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna, they can get there. If that devotion, that feeling is there. So I think that's why he doesn't want to call somebody. There may be some people don't want to speak, but they like to listen. That's why they are all here in Sadhu Sangha, which is important. If everybody starts speaking, then obviously we don't have listeners. So anyway, but what I like to listen, I think I like to listen, but sometimes I like to talk. So again, in this verse, again, as I hear all those various devotional process, various activities of Lord Krishna, is not one is less than the other, but certainly in our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, I think Madhurya Ras is always, all these acharyas are focused on. That is, they always talking about, but they're very, very careful, as Prabhupada also said, that we can be misled, we can make mistake, and our devotion can be destroyed if we start talking about the Rasa Leela and that intimate relationship pastimes of Sri Krishna with gopis. So that's why all the acharyas, I was listening to today to Jayadev Goswami's actually statement, the very first verse in Gita Govinda, he's talking about actually setting the mood, and that's why he's talking about one Prabhu is described as Das Avatar. So he wants to make sure, because he is conscious of that, because when he started writing, then and when he at one point he was looking, he was seeing the activity of Sri Krishna with Radharani, and then he at one point he saw that actually Krishna surrendered to her lotus feet and said, please put your feet on my head, because I feeling seeing her feeling the kama. I want you that put your feet on my head so I can burn it off and I don't get distracted. Even so, he felt a little bit uneasy. So he went away to take bath. So that is, if a powerful devotee who is kind of Nitya Siddha, actually he's part of Krishna's pastimes all the time, and he is concerned about that, then obviously, as Prabhupada says, all these pure devotees, they talk about that, they set up the background. So we are matured enough so that we don't mistake, we don't get in trouble just going to Madhurya Ras and listening and talking and hearing. So it's, although it is highest, all our acharyas are focused on Madhurya Ras in our Gaudiya Sampradaya, but again, they set up appropriately so that we mature with other processes, other activities of Krishna, so that we never get in trouble. So I think that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
No, actually, Srila Prabhupada, the other day I was invited to a youth reading group in LSU. And they're reading Krishna books. So you'd think, oh, reading Krishna book would be really good for kids like 8, 10, 12, 13. It's so packed with philosophy. I mean, to get through Krishna book, when you take a look, there's 90 chapters to the 10th canto. And Prabhupada did it. He put everything. He knew that he may pass away before he finishes the Bhagavatam. So he didn't want anybody to be under the influence of like some kind of mundane thinking when they got to this point of the Bhagavatam without his person being there. And so he wrote Krishna book. And Krishna book isn't like these flowery Kata people getting into the deep romantic affairs of the cowherd girls and Krishna. I mean, it's like deep philosophy, impersonalism, Dvaita. It's you're not the body. It's like the modes of nature. It's like it's so many. You practically get a full education of Krishna consciousness. And so there were words that the children didn't even probably using words that the young kids didn't even understand. So I suggested maybe get the children's books, the children's Krishna book to read, because this is like, it's so hard for these kids. They don't even know half the words that Prabhupada's using. And also another thing that just like when you were speaking and how the acharyas, they always take care to keep us focused. That happens even in the Damodar prayers. Namam Ishwaram Namam Ishwaram Satchit Anandarupam Laksha Kundalam Gokule Vajramanam. I offer my obeisances, Namam Ishwara, to the Supreme, Namam Ishwaram Satchit, and who is eternal, but ever full of knowledge and full of happiness. It's because if you hear how God's being chased by his mother with a stick and tied up, and how he's so naughty, you won't understand. So they have to, they begin this song in a specific way so that we keep our focus. We keep our focus like this. And Srila Prabhupada has often told us not to hear from mundane wranglers, as he calls it. I mean, Prabhupada can do that. I don't feel comfortable, but he's very, very straightforward in his message. So we're at 9:08, Nitai Gaur Sundar. My body is getting hotter by the minute. And it'll probably
you should take rest, and we will see you next.
See everyone.
All right.
It's so nice to see everyone. At least most people put their cameras on. The majority put their cameras on. So that's nice to see everyone.
Okay.
I learned that from His Holiness Giriraj Swami. Get people to put their cameras on. Now we get to see them multitasking on camera rather than thinking that they're multitasking off camera. Just teasing.
Okay, man. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay,
So,
thank you all.
Amit,
I'm a little wiped out today, as you can see. I just
yes, Maharaj, you can take rest, and we'll talk tomorrow.
I don't know if I fell asleep at at 2:30 and woke up at about 4:15. So I don't know how that's going to work.
That's what.
As soon as I lay down, I'm just going to be laying there chanting, but at least I'll be resting. At least I'll be resting.
Okay, Maharaj. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. I guess
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
nowadays I'm so used to this, but
So ask if Amit is and I, am I still up?